G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/legal advice video. Now if you love me as much as I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over down to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good legal advice. Now our first post is by user McBrongus, titled, "Unpermitted contractor next door did 5,000 plus of damage to my home. Contractor and homeowner won't pay or provide insurance information." Hi r/legal advice. Hoping someone here can give me some further insight into how I should proceed. So I live in Philadelphia, PA, and my wife and I own a row home. In the spring of 2018, a contractor started doing a complete gutting and renovation on the unoccupied house next door. And in July, the city put a stop work order on the house. These guys were doing some pretty enormous renovations. They tore down the old kitchen, an addition on the back that caused all of the problems to come, built a new addition, took out a section of the front wall, and apparently were digging in the basement, which could apparently collapse the house and make our house completely unstable. And were doing this all without any permits or inspections whatsoever. Shortly after work stopped was when we noticed the water. First, our neighbors on the other side of the unoccupied home woke us up in the middle of the night, telling us that their basement had flooded with a couple of feet of water leaking in from the unoccupied house, and that we should check ours. Fortunately, our basement was dry, but not long afterwards, we started to get water leaking into our basement when it rained. At its worst, I shop vacked up about 14 gallons of water out of our basement during a storm. Our basement had always gotten a little water during heavy rains, but nothing close to what we started seeing after the construction next door. So, as the summer went on, we contacted the city hoping they could give us some guidance on what to do. Construction next door had halted. The guys doing the work hadn't been seen for months, and we started to get water soaking the drywall in our kitchen and the exposed brick on one of our walls, causing mold to develop. They were not any help, and eventually the stop work order was pulled down and we started seeing the guys coming back to work on the house. I asked the contractor if they'd gotten their permit straightened out, and he said they had. And I told him about the water leaking into our house, and he said he would fix it and pay for the damages. I had almost all of our communications documented in text messages. Fast forward and it was September. Our son was 3 months old at the time, so we got the mold removed as quickly as possible. It turns out that while demolishing their addition, this guy had knocked out a portion of the masonry that was supporting our addition. Oh, that just looks lovely and secure now, doesn't it? And that the demolition left the top of the masonry wall completely exposed, letting water in all along the wall. Then, during an inspection afterwards, it was discovered that the moisture in the wall had caused an infestation of termites that needed to be exterminated. But the leak was still active, so nothing could be done about it yet. What followed was 4 months of this guy trying different tactics to fix the leak, each less successful than the last. Once the bill came due for the mold removal, around $1,760, the contractor had me send him the information so he could send a check, and then proceeded to repeatedly lie to me about sending payments for around 2 months. The mold removal company was very patient in dealing with this situation, but eventually the contractor started arguing about how much the service cost and refusing to pay, leaving us responsible for the bill. Due to the weather and this guy's inability to fix the leak for 4 months, we hadn't been able to deal with the termites or the damaged studs, drywall and insulation. But I'm certain this guy's going to try and stiff us on that too. It doesn't seem as though this guy is licensed or insured, so we asked for and received contact information for the homeowner, hoping that we could just file a claim through their homeowner's insurance and deal with it that way. She initially seemed receptive to this plan, but in the last month has avoided us like the plague. She hasn't returned any of our calls or texts, and the contractor has been no help in getting any of this information. We know that the owner is in legal trouble with the city for tax evasion, and that the violation of a stop work order carries very hefty fines, for which there is apparently a court case pending. But the only information out there about the person lists the house next door as her permanent address, We'd like to file a suit, the homeowner or contractor, in small claims court for the cost of the repairs, but don't know how to find either of them. All we have are phone numbers and a license plate for the contractor. We've talked very briefly with a lawyer about the situation, but we're told that the amount we'd be suing for wouldn't warrant paying for representation. Any advice on how to bring this mind-numbing, soul-sucking journey to an end would be greatly appreciated. Do you have homeowners insurance? Call them. This is what you pay them for. Let your insurance company know what has happened and go from there. Your insurance should pay to fix the damages, then they go after the parties who caused the damages to get reimbursed. Like when someone hits your car, you don't call their insurance, you call your insurance and give your agent the other guy's information. I have contacted them numerous times, and the one time they actually responded to me, they said they will not pay for the termite extermination and that our deductible would take a huge chunk of what they would actually pay for anyway. When I told the lawyer, who was actually kind enough to return my call and give me advice, that I'd asked my homeowner's insurance for help, he actually laughed out loud. Edit. And he suggested I try to get the neighbor's insurance information directly, which brings us to her no longer returning calls or messages. Your insurance contractor does not cover insect, vermin, or infestation. Your insurance company will not generally pay for those types of losses. However, your neighbor's liability insurance will pay for bodily injury or property damage to others due to the insured's negligence. Arguably, the owner negligently hired/supervised contractors. File the claim against the owner's insurance. They will, if needed, subrogate against the contractors or anyone else involved. You'll be out your deductible at minimum. On the other hand, your insurance company has an exponentially greater amount of experience chasing negligent ghost contractors than you do. You don't just pay for indemnity. You also pay for their expertise in chasing these douchebags down and subrogating. You spend $1,000 or $2,000 a year on what amounts to a retainer. Let them pay for the lawyer and do the investigation. If they pay, great. If not, any case and rates will be an order of magnitude less than you would have spent on litigation, and they are the ones who had to find and squeeze the contractor next door. You said you don't know how to find the homeowner. Check your county property tax records. That's publicly available information. The only address we've been able to find for her is the unoccupied house. The city doesn't seem to have any additional information, as they've sent her certified mail to the property and posted court summons there as well. Along with the other advice here, if you haven't already, make sure Elle and I are aware of the sketchy construction. There have been a few instances in Philly recently where a neighbouring row home does shoddy demolition/construction that has caused the attached homes to suffer severe damage. Some of these have resulted in collapsed homes and even deaths. Look, they're involved at this point. The police have even been called on the guys trying to work against the stop work order. And now our update by McBrungus. Update: unpermitted contractor next door did $5,000+ of damage to my home. Contractor and homeowner won't pay or provide insurance information. Hi r/LegalAdvice. Just wanted to provide a thank you for all the responses and an update on the situation detailed in my original post. Basically, I'm a homeowner in Philadelphia, PA, and a contractor working on my neighbor's house caused a leak that led to a lot of mold and water damage that needs to be repaired, and the contractor and homeowner have ghosted. Since so many people suggested we file a claim with our homeowner's insurance, I gave that a shot. However, according to the adjuster I spoke to about our claim, our policy apparently has an exclusion for faulty workmanship, even though it's completely insane. I was told that our insurance company would not cover the damage or provide any legal assistance because the damage was caused by someone doing work on the house next door. The adjuster told me this is a very common clause in insurance policies. Basically, all insurance companies are completely manned by psychopaths, and capitalism is an endless nightmare that will surely swallow us all. So now it looks like I'm back to square one. The police have suggested that I try to find information about the contractor and homeowner through the licensing and inspection department to pursue legal action. But previous attempts at that came up with basically zilch, aside from a suggestion to hire a lawyer. So I guess I'll try to find a lawyer that will take this case, although my previous attempts to reach out to lawyers about this issue have not been promising at all. Going forward, are there any additional avenues I should pursue? My insurance company, Farmers by the way, if you're thinking about going with them, I might suggest drinking poison instead, is completely worthless. The two lawyers I've spoken to seem to have absolutely no interest in taking up a case. One of them specifically advised against hiring a lawyer because of the relatively low cost of the damage, the amount we'd owed in legal fees, and the fact that the cases like this are rarely paid out, even when they are successful. It's been a bleak couple of days, but thank you for all your responses earlier and wish me luck. Edits, I'll be responding to pertinent comments as I'm able, but being a dude with a 9-month-old, it might be pretty slow going. Thank you all so much for taking the time to respond, and a big thanks to the mods for removing the lock on this post. So basically what people have suggested from here include: file a small claim suit against the neighbor property owner. In Philly, you can sue up for $12,000 in small claims court, no lawyer needed, and the filing fees are minimal. You will have to find out who owns the property, but that should be a matter of public record. If the defendant fails to show up for your case, you win. You can then pursue collecting your judgment, including placing a lien on the neighbor's property. To add to this, you can sue without knowing where the owner is. You don't need to track them down, just know their name, which, as said above, should be on public record. Sue the listed owner and go from there. If the owner insists it's not his problem, he will provide the contractor's information, in which case you should add the contractor to the suit, or sue separately if needed. It takes longer due to the service requirements. There is processes for serving a lawsuit to someone that you can't find. The court can assist with that, but don't think that you can't sue just because you don't know where they are. And finally, file a complaint with the PA Insurance Department about your homeowners denying the claim, even though it's not your faulty workmanship. On this site here, you can get information about your neighbor and see if they pulled permits here at atlas.filla.gov. Maybe you'll find something about your contractor if they actually pulled a permit. At least this will tell you who the property owner is, since you will need that information to serve them if you sue in small claims courts, the municipal courts. And that's all we have for this one, guys. That was the update. Don't know what they did, but I'm sure that they took these people's advice. Alright, time for the next story. And our next post is by user I Am the Real Orange, titled, I'm going to sound like a busybody, but am concerned with my coworker and her boyfriend sleeping naked with her breastfed 7-year-old. Now she's getting ready to pull her out of public school because her teacher is questioning why the girl is smart, but acts like a much younger child. Now, this coworker of mine is beautiful and very popular, but in my opinion is taking this hippie thing entirely too far. Her daughter is smart enough, but constantly reverting into acting like a toddler. She's doing it more than she acts her own age. I support extended breastfeeding, but this is getting weird. We work at a health food store. We are talking major crunchy granola. So once she let it slip that they all sleep naked in bed together, I honestly do not think they are all pedophiles at all. But as liberal as I am, that's still getting weirder at her age. I've always minded my own business, but now she's saying she's going to pull the girl out of public school because the classroom teacher is starting to question the emotional development of the child. Do I mind my own business or make a discreet phone call to CPS? No way in hell would I discuss the matter with her. She's on one hell of an ego trip. Could I do this anonymously? I can't risk CPS telling her it was me. One last edit, another co-worker's daughter spent the night at their house, and they had both girls running around naked, which would not have been cool with the girl's conservative mum, but the adults were not naked in front of the girls. Hashtag free spirits. I am not a lawyer. When you call Child Protective Services, they will ask for your information. You do not need to give it to them, instead state that you would like to remain anonymous. However, at least in Ohio, it is illegal for CPS to tell anyone who exactly called on them. Instead, they state that there was a concern voiced and that they are there to look into it. And in my opinion, if she believes the school is asking too many questions, she'll probably assume they called. All teachers are mandated reporters. I will say, 2 adults and an older child sleeping on the same bed and nude will raise eyebrows. It may not necessarily lead to removal, but it may lead to parenting/child development classes and a safety plan, meaning parents do X, Y, and Z, or child will be removed. CPS isn't as cut and dry as people think. They don't want to remove children. They want to ensure the best environment for development, including safety, education, and emotional stability. It sounds like at least 2 of these are in question for this child. There are heaps of red flags here. Child is lagging in social and emotional development, the child's sleeping arrangements, and the mother being critical of mandated reports questions, the teacher, and wanting to remove her from public school, thus further isolating the child. Together, these paint a pretty dim situation. Report this to Child Protective Services. Report the facts only, and don't put in excuses or backstory. CPS will investigate, and if there is something wrong, your report will remain anonymous, and your co-worker is unlikely to think that you reported her. If she is investigated, she will probably assume that the school reported her. Oh dear Jesus Christ, this makes it so much worse. 7 years old, not 7 months old, correct? Also, education is mandatory in most Western countries. I believe assuming they are below legal age, 16 to 18. Sleeping naked with your 7-year-old is definitely strange. May not be directly criminal, but it does open up questions of sexual misconduct. Yeah, and the naked boyfriend in bed with the girl is not the girl's father. He's been with the mother for 3 years. What? No. Call CPS now. Alright, that is much more disturbing than it started off as. Jesus Christ. And now on to the update. So, first, I didn't appreciate all of the nasty messages I got from people insulting me and berating me, and saying that I was trying to ruin the family by calling CPS. Yes, I'm well aware of the fact that some CPS workers have made poor decisions, but you're an idiot to not utilize it when it's appropriate. Along with those messages, I got quite a few from people saying they grew up in similar situations and had indeed been taken advantage of, and to please call and to put this in the hands of the authorities. I never personally thought that the girl was getting taken advantage of. I just wondered at what point this creepy emotional incest is deemed inappropriate. So I went ahead and called, and when I said the woman's name, the worker said, "Oh, she works at such and such?" So she was already on the radar. I told her what facts that I knew about that I thought were concerning. Yesterday, the co-worker went on a rant about how she's being persecuted. That CPS is on her case again. Again, after previous complaints about the child pooping repeatedly in the neighbor's yard when she was a toddler, and something else about food stamp fraud getting her checked out by CPS a couple of years ago. There was a long, convoluted conversation. I have to listen to this self-absorbed narcissist talk about herself endlessly, and I never say anything. Just try to disengage as diplomatically as possible and get back to work. But CPS wanted to see the girl's bedroom, and they said she slept in the attic, which is a pull-down trapdoor, which is never actually used, and CPS was well aware of that. When the breastfeeding topic came up, I was like, oh, she still breastfeeds, huh? And get this, she said that at her age, she can no longer latch on and actually get milk out of the breast anyway. It's for bonding purposes. The bed thing, I thought it was super obvious that before that they were having... Ooh, Jesus. I am not reading that sentence. But in the last post, people seemed okie dokie with it. So I asked her, isn't it hard to get any privacy for it? You see, I'm not holistic and could not understand that it's a worldwide practice for them to have it in front of their children, and it takes away their fear of death. What? Fudging gross. 3 hours later, and she's still talking about all of this. Well, more about how she's a martyr, and her mum brings the kid in after school. I turned to the kid and for the first time got brave and said to her, "So what do you do at night when they're doing it?" And she said, "I pretend I'm sleeping." Both the grandma and mum were speechless. Like, maybe it dawned on them a little about how very bad that sounds. I'm not exactly sure how everything went down, but I do know that she's not being taken out of school. She was assessed, and the professionals didn't think that she was being taken advantage of. Again, I didn't really think so, but still thought that this was inappropriate and not just a different form of parenting. They also have to clean out one of the bedrooms that's a hoarding pit and provide her with her own bedroom. The girl's father was somehow in the loop and will be more active with her, since he's technically got half-time custody anyway. She said she's trying to have a second baby now anyway, and my favorite part, her psychopathic friends, I think that's what they meant by that one, even poorer than her, are doing fundraising on her behalf. For what or why, I do not know. For the people saying that they're going to figure out who I am here on Reddit, first of all, these people brag about not using social media. And second of all, they can kiss my ass. I'm leaving soon for nursing school, where I'm going to vaccinate all of the little children. You tell 'em, boy. Alright, and our next one I've already done before, and there's an update at the end that was only posted recently. I'm not going to spoil anything, I'm just going to go through the 2 posts I've already covered, and yeah, enjoy. By user apparent throwaway 79. I find out I had a child when CPS contacted me because her mother was losing custody. Now what? In MD. Sorry for the crappy title. To make a long story short, I was a junkie, and as a result I did a lot of dumb, questionable things. I have been clean for 11 years now. About a week and a half ago, I was contacted by CPS, who asked if I knew Mary Smith, a woman with whom I had a relationship when I was on drugs. I said yes, and I was informed that she had a child, Emma last name, who had been taken from the home, and I was named as her father. With no contactable family, she could come to me or otherwise go to foster care. It was relayed to me that I was listed as the child's father on her legal documents as well. To cut out some bullcrap from the middle here, I'll just skip to the fact that I did accept emergency custody of the child, and I do actually pretty strongly believe that I'm probably her biological father for a number of reasons. But I feel like at this point, the caseworkers have been unhelpful, and are basically like, for all intents and purposes, you're her legal father, bye! And not answering any of my questions. Emma apparently knew I existed, and was told through her life that I was her father, but her mother said that she had no way of contacting me, which I guess is technically true. My questions. 1. How was I listed on the birth certificate, legal records, school records, etc., and literally never informed ever at any point? How is this possible? 2. The caseworker said that because I'm on the birth certificate, and the undertone here was, unless you have an identical twin somewhere, that is 100% your child. There's no need to take a DNA test. Is there any benefit to doing so? And 3. This one I may have to consult with a lawyer on. But if I'm her father, then am I entitled to child support? Or the foster care stipend? That sounds terrible, but I don't make a lot of money, and I'm stressed, because there's times I feel like I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough for myself, even working full time. And I need to be able to provide for a kid now too. It's not about the money, but it's a little bit about the money. Now first, don't ever feel guilty or weird about looking into support money. Kids are expensive, and they are able to thrive when you're not trying to figure out how to pay bills or put food on the table. You are now the custodial parent. Look into whatever support and benefits you qualify for so you have less to stress about. Second, in addition to a DNA test, get a copy of that birth certificate. MD requires that an unmarried parent must complete an affidavit of parentage before his name can be put on the birth certificate. It's a signed, notarized document. Without it, your name should not have been added. If it's on there, it was done so fraudulently, and that would have been very hard to do, unless she found someone with your same name. If it's not, it's possible the social worker asked this woman who the girl's father is, and bluffed to you in an attempt to keep her out of the foster care system. I'm not saying this is what happened, but if you didn't put yourself on the birth certificate, you shouldn't be on it. The claim that you are is suspicious. I just want to add that you can sign this anytime during her first 18 years. It's not just something done at the hospital when the baby is born. This probably doesn't apply since you haven't seen her, but I just wanted to toss it in. But she is right about how legal parentage works. The names on the birth certificates are legal parents, regardless of DNA. If by some weird chance you did provide an affidavit of parentage and just don't remember, and then find out she's not biologically yours, it doesn't matter. It's documentation where you accepted the legal responsibility of being the parent. Having been through the affidavit of parentage process myself, I will say that it's highly unlikely you'd forget about it. Good on you for taking her in. It's hard for sure, but she's lucky to have you there. I hope things work out well for you both. And our next post, update nearly 3 months later about the kid I didn't know existed for 10 years. So it's almost been 3 months now, and I thought I'd come in real quick to give an update. Overall, the kid and I are doing great. I really expected the adjustment period to suck, but I feel like maybe the poor kid really needed some structure and stability, and totally glommed onto that. I just try to give her as much of my love, patience, structure, and stability that I have to give. I've been learning a lot about attachment, trauma, and everything. It's been overwhelming, but every night, no matter how exhausted I am, I get into bed and I thank God for her. I wouldn't trade her for anything in this world. I tell her every night she's my favorite thing. Legally, things are kind of boring. I did the DNA test, unsurprisingly got the result that she's mine biologically. The emergency order is still in place. Had mum is still in jail. She was offered the option of going to rehab and refused. She'll be in jail for at least a few more months, and after she's out, we will make a parenting plan for visits with help from the social worker. Realistically, I think she'll die before she gets clean. That sounds like a horrible thing to say, but it is how it is. It's been a wild ride. It's not easy, but it's joyful, and it's really changed my life and made me want to be better in a lot of ways. And I hope you're ready, here comes the update. An update I hoped I'd never have to post. My daughter's mum has passed. So I got a call this morning telling me that my daughter's mother had passed away. No other details at this time, most likely an overdose. I've recognized it as an inevitability, but I also hoped for a miracle for our girl's sake, if not her own. You always cheer for people you loved at one point, and especially so in this case. It's mixed relief and deep sadness. Legally, there are going to be some things down the line here that will fall to me to deal with on behalf of our kid, and I'm sure it'll come with questions I'll rely on you for. Our girl doesn't know yet. I let her sleep in this morning, and she's still asleep. I don't know how I'm going to tell her, and that's the part that gets me. She's going through some stuff of her own right now, and this was the last thing that I wanted for her. Well, that's not the update that we wanted to hear, but it's life and these things happen. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to one that doesn't have a complete update, but I thought it was a big bunch of BS, so I want to read it out. Posted by user Throwaway, titled, Texas, I am a felon. I was hired through a temp agency that helps people find jobs. I let them know that I had a felony up front. I worked for a warehouse, was offered a permanent position, signed an offer of employment letter, then was fired because of my record after the second background check. As the title says, I am a felon. Less than a gram charge in 2013. I was a 22-year-old punk. I am now a 28-year-old man, and that life is long behind me. I paid the piper in full for it all, and have been deeply humbled. With that being said, I was completely honest with the agency with my record. I made sure they knew this, 100%. This job finally stuck. It was a performance numbers-based job. I received electronics and entered information into a computer. You were supposed to scan 8 to 10 items an hour with a certain error rate. I always made my numbers, was even one of the top receivers on the floor. I averaged 120 to 150 scans a day. My error rate was very low, maybe 3 tags, errors in total, because I wanted to prove my worth. I was never late, never called in, came to work and produced. My manager was even a family friend that got me the job. He knows my whole history. The only reason I posted this was because my old man called me up and said he spoke to his friend, who is a really smart 22-year-old veteran of the military, so is my pops, about my situation. The friend mentioned to my old man that it sounded like discrimination and I should see a lawyer. I signed the offer of employment, and when they did the second background check, I received a call from the temp agency saying they were no longer going to hire me, citing my record, even though I was upfront with my record. Do I have any kind of legs here, or is this just what I should expect until I can get my record expunged? Kinda crappy, man. This job was the best thing that happened to me. I was able to help my mum out and felt like a normal person of society. I don't know, I don't want any boo-hoos for me. I know I'm a good person. I felt wronged in this situation, dirty almost. I understand if I provided with them a reason like being late or not performing, but I knew I had something to prove and I did just that, which is why they offered me the position. I was in that warehouse for 3 months. Their background checks went back 7 years. This really set me back financially, and honestly my manhood was defeated a bit, but that's life. Is there anything here for me to pursue? Thanks to anyone that can help. Have a lovely day, everyone. Edit, should I speak to a lawyer? I guess that is the question. Sorry for the wall of text. Edit 2, wow, thanks so much for all the replies. I appreciate it all. I'm going to go through and reply now. I am grateful for all the knowledge. Edit 3, someone gave this gold. Wow, thanks kind stranger. I can't reply anymore due to the locked thread. But thanks to everyone who has messaged me with the awesome advice, stories, and positive affirmation. Some of you brought a tear to my eye with some things that were said. I'm getting a bit teary-eyed now, to be honest. I was very hesitant to put my story here, but I knew good people would show up. Thank you so much to all of you guys, even the ones being mean. You guys really made my day. I don't deserve this. I hope others can find some kind of hope and positivity through this. Thanks everyone. And I'll read what some people have said and what he said back to them. This could have happened due to the differing contracts the company has with the staffing firm regarding temp versus permanent employees. For example, if it wasn't stated in the contract that the company wanted the firm to run a background check on temp employees, the company would not have seen your record. It's very likely that the position was initially just a temp job and the company realized your worth and wanted to hire you on as a permanent employee. Usually, staffing firms do not run background checks on candidates unless specifically stated by the company due to the cost. There isn't much you can do, but I did have employees that were fired due to a felony. The company that fired you should state in their contract with you method of firing, X, call, email, etc. Whether there is a possibility that you can appeal, which includes stating whether your type of felony would put you at a risk of doing your job. They can say no, or they can rehire you. But from what I've seen, your work won't be the same after you've been fired. And to answer your question, no, you shouldn't talk to a lawyer because you would be wasting money. Texas is an at-will state, and they aren't legally obligated to let you appeal. You should speak to your recruiter at the staffing firm though, and see if they can place you elsewhere. Maybe an option for you is to keep doing the temp work until you turn 29 and your background check is wiped clean. Source, Worked HR in Texas. Thank you. This is what happened. I am still trying to get work through the agency. I have landed multiple interviews, been offered positions, then I get rejected. I get it. I just have to wait another year to get it wiped. Again, thank you. Not much you can do here. It's discrimination, but it's not illegal discrimination. The warehouse is likely pissed at the temp agency because you shouldn't have been placed there in the first place. This is very common, unfortunately, and staffing companies will do basic or no background checks. If you were convicted, you will not be eligible for expungement in Texas. You can look into an order of non-disclosure though. To go along with your comments, can confirm staffing agencies have very lax background checks. Twice, my former company hired registered sex offenders. Right? They actually had an employee there that was caught in a sting operation soliciting a minor. Still had his job, no problem. But he already had been working there and the case is still ongoing. What the hell is up with these sex offenders today? Jesus Christ. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode of r/LegalAdvice. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. I know you guys love this one and these pop off, so I'm happy to keep doing many more long legal advice videos. Alright, I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you've been up to today. This has been Markee. Hope your quarantine is treating you well. Hope Australia's going well, though the bushfires haven't really been touching them as much lately, but it's been lovely and sunny in Ireland where I'm at right now. And I hope you Americans have been having good weather. I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Have a good sleep, whatever you're doing. Bye-bye.